how many you've got, I suppose, in Perth, and what sort of job prospects there may be at your organisation. Starting here.
So we're National News Wire, so we've got offices all around Australia. In Perth, we've got about 5 or 6 people, and we have several different levels in terms of hiring. We have cadetships each year, about 7 or 8 people, but it can be different from year to year. We've also introduced what's called a News Discovery intern position now, which is that's a 1 year position, and it's a bridge to get in a cadetship. And we also have editorial assistants, which is a level below that. We don't have that in Perth, but we do that have those different areas. The cadetships are all Sydney based, so it would involve moving there, but they're very highly regarded. So I guess that's the way in at the moment, I guess. Yeah.
So it's all through application to Sydney basically, or do we do any local hiring for our?
Look, I personally don't hire. If it was a position in Perth, we do have an intern in Perth, and so I guess I would have some input into that. But it's generally an application to Sydney, to Sydney, yeah. And actually last year, so we had an intern this year, or who's just got a cadetship, Tom Ravi, who was a student here, I believe, and so his application even involved a video as well. So, but we certainly help people with doing that. But, yeah, that's how it sort of works for us.
Tom's a good case. He did I think probably 18 months with us at Community News before he took on the intern role at AAP, which developed him further. But he had all of that experience just to get his cadetship in Sydney, which he's currently doing really well at now. So he's a good case study of somebody to aspire to if you want to hit. And you're prepared to move interstate to take your career further. There are great opportunities. At Community, we've got 17 newspapers across the metro area. We don't have any, or we don't have any in the country. So, and most of the hiring does get done through my office. 17 papers equates to roughly, well, an editorial team of about 55 people and about 30 on the ground reporters, which makes us, I guess, one of the bigger newsrooms operating around Perth. Having said that, we're not all in one newsroom, we're spread in different offices, half a dozen different offices around Perth. We do give a fair amount of opportunities to young reporters, some graduate opportunities, some we're particularly encouraged by anyone who comes with a little bit of experience from somewhere, whether that's out on your own doing a bit of freelancing or a stint in the country papers or radio or TV or wherever it happens to be. But yeah, and I guess probably the one difference between applying for an internship at somewhere like AAP and our roles, it's more a case of when they come up, which could be any time, anywhere. And I'm assuming the cadetships with AAP are an annual intern.
Yeah, that's right. That's the internships as well. I mean, having said that, just general reporting positions do come up ad hoc. So I know you guys are just graduating and used to cadetships and all that, but in terms of your whole careers, yeah, I mean, I certainly just picked up a job at AAP when I was 30, and it was just good time. But yeah, as for the cadetships, it's once a year.
Right, well, I have about 10 journalists who work at 10, plus we use freelancers as well. And we actually don't have a lot of turnover, which I take to be a good thing. I think people enjoy working there. But when I have hired people, the last person I hired had come and done work experience with us, and she just stood out. And that is one way to set yourself apart. Go and do work experience, get yourself known, and show that you've got the drive and determination, and that you're not shy about. But yeah.
Are you looking for people, especially a lot of the Perth stations take the GWN people? Do you generally look there first, or can you take people directly from?
Oh, the last person I hired was direct from Whopper.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she came and did work experience, proved herself to be, a good operator. So then I started giving her freelance work, and then when the position became available, it was just a no-brainer to offer to her.
Yeah, for those who don't know who we are, WAtoday.com.au is owned by Fairfax. We're the only digital-only newsroom in the state. We probably have about you included casuals and those kind of things, probably 12 people there, including producers, journos and a VJ. Being owned by Fairfax, there's probably an expectation, both from our staff and the company, that we develop especially younger journos who might head over east and work for The Age or the Sydney Morning Herald, Brisbane Times, Canberra Times, and there's a strong history of that happening within our newsroom. So while we don't have massive amounts of turnover en masse, there is that sort of, I guess, production system. Since I took over the job as editor a year ago, I think I've hired probably 3 new people, I would say, and they've come from various places. One was a girl who'd done a cadetship with the West and been up in the Pilbara. Emma, who's a graduate of Community News, Emma Young. There's actually Hannah, sorry to point you out, but Hannah was an intern for us who did really well, and we've been able to offer her a bit of work that will be ongoing, hopefully. So yeah, there is that sort of cycle. It's probably also worth noting that Fairfax has an extensive bunch of regional papers here, and we have a very good relationship with them. So if the regionals are ever looking for someone, you know, if people do internships with us or you know, come to our attention, we can say to our regionals, you know, this person is good, you might want to speak to them. So, yeah.
One of the buzzwords at the moment is about convergence. Can you tell us how much convergence is required in your workplace, and also what sort of skills you expect to see in a young journo who walks into your newsroom?
So you're referring to social media? Or
well, yeah, social media, video, radio. I mean, some of you may not use that, Greg. I can imagine AAP would be less so perhaps than Simon at WA Today.
Look, there is definitely an expectation of more of that, and so with our intern position, which is something you guys might be interested in. A major part of that is monitoring social media, because so much news breaks on there these days, and I'm a little bit older and being reluctant to embrace it, but I accept the reality of it as well. And yeah, it's very important to be on tweet deck, because so much news, that's where you get it now, rather than somebody ringing you up or whatever. And video, and when we, you know, with smartphones these days, when we go out to a job, where just as well as recording the whoever we're interviewing, a politician or whatever, talking, we also might have the smartphone out taking a video, and we'll post that, or a photograph as well, and because that's a way that our company makes money as well as the stories. So yeah, I mean, all those things that I'm sure you're being taught are definitely true. It's not just recording, it's all those sort of areas.
And what sort of attributes are you after in a young journo? Are those multimedia skills particularly important, or are you looking for someone who can break a story or can write a story well, or a mixture?
Yeah, look, I mean, multimedia skills are very important, but I think it's, I think the attitude is probably more important. I mean, if somebody comes along, they don't have to be a skilled technician at taking video. I think it's more those things that you were talking about. I think probably news sense is the number one thing, that interest in news and interest in the curiosity in the world around them, I guess. And pretty close second would be things like writing and the ability to tell that story. But yeah, certainly just being able to have an interest in the world around them. And with AAP, certainly hard news. Hard news is probably the number one, probably above the softer, feature stuff, which we still do, but yeah, certainly breaking news.
Yeah. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I almost take for granted these days with the interviews that I do that if you come through a 3-year course at one of the universities, you can probably construct a story in the right manner. And these days, you can probably also take a photo, shoot your video, post on social media about it, and find your own stories that way. And I guess it's probably that last element that I'm digging for most when I interview a young reporter is your ability to find that story and tell it. I think you know, you would have seen it in your class as well. You can all do what you're told to do, and if the editor says to you, go and follow this story, you go and follow the story and do a good job. So you've got to have something, I guess, that sets you apart when you sit in that interview, apart from a list of technical skills or tools that you can use to tell a story. You've got to have that, and news sense is the critical word. That, you know, that tells you there's a story. I'm going to go and tell my boss about this story that I'm going to write, rather than wait for my boss to come and tell me what story to follow up today. To be honest, when we sit in interview opportunities, I could interview 10 people. I'll probably only see it out of 2 or 3. There's a lot of people that can come through a program and have all the basic essential skills to go, but not necessarily demonstrate that news sense and story finding capacity. And I think certainly at our level, that's what we're looking for in a journalist. It's a bit hard to teach. We can teach you a little bit about video or photos or sentence construction. It's a bit harder to teach that basic news sense. So that's the number one thing we look for in an interview.
Ella?
Yeah, I agree on news sense. I think a good journalist also has just a personality trait that it's hard to put your finger on, but you know when you meet them. And anyone can study journalism, but not everyone can be a journalist. Part of that is the energy, the enthusiasm, but also being able to connect with people and get the story out of people. I always think everyone has a story to tell, but not everyone can get that story out of them. So I don't know if this even relates to the original question you asked.
That's all right. Please continue.
No, I just think, yeah, some of my best journos are people who can really relate to people and empathise with them. And when, you know, on the ground, a person might decide not to talk to a journalist, another journalist can come in and get them talking. It's, you know, a really powerful trait to have as a journalist.
I think it's, I always thought it was trying to be non-threatening. I mean, you need to be a confident person. I don't know how outgoing is the word, but, you know, cocky and intimidating. So I always thought it was just real fine line.
I think there's a level of empathy that you need as a journalist as well. You need to put yourself in their shoes. But yeah, it is hard to put your finger on, but you know it when you see it. You also need a lot of energy as a journalist. It's a high energy job.
A lot of coffee.
Yeah, a lot of coffee.
So,
Pretty much exactly what these guys said. The old school tenets, if you want, of journalism haven't changed since I was a cadet, which is going on, which is a long time ago now, 14 years ago now. So it hasn't changed since then. You need to be able to identify a story. You need to be able to write at least a functional level. What Pamela said then about building relationships with people, you've got to be able to be a person who people will talk to. You've got to be creative, because a story isn't always going to be there at first glance. And you've got to be really passionate, to be honest. And you've just got to, what Pamela said then about not being able to put your finger on why a person is a good journalist, there's just an it. Some people get it and some people don't. And if you ever interview people for a job, it's normally pretty apparent who gets it and who doesn't. But going to something that's, you know, increasingly prevalent now in our role, entirely online, if you don't get social media, you're dead in the water. And it used to be back in the day that we'd go to the pubs and have a beer and people would whisper to us about a story and you'd write something from that. These days you tend to find all that stuff on social media, whether it's just the seed for the story, an actual story itself. You know, it's gold, really. I mean, back in the day you used to get whispers at pubs, this happened. Well, there was no photo to prove it. You couldn't contact anyone who was there. Now things get posted on social media if you're lucky with the photo. So you've just got to be able to really build stories around that. And to give an indication here of how much of our traffic comes from social media, like we did some research recently, and so 25% of visitors to our article pages come from Facebook. And I reckon 5 years ago when I started in the business, that was probably 5%. I reckon 18 months ago it was probably 10%. It's 25% now, and I don't see it decreasing anytime soon.
Guys, we did have a panel in before you of young journalists telling their story of coming from university and how they ended up getting into their jobs. Particularly, we heard from Liam Croy, who's been around for 5 years now and is still doing night shifts and graveyards because of the downturn in the industry and the fact that he's still at the bottom of the food chain after 5 years because of the lack of hiring. What can you see, and hey, I'm sure you've all got magnificent crystal balls, but what can you see for the next 5 to 10 years when these guys are going to be out hunting for jobs? Are they going to be jobs, and are they going to hit that that bottleneck where their career sort of, they get a job and then stagnate?
Yeah, I mean, these guys in some ways might be almost better positions than me or something, because you've been taught what's happening and you're coming through with those skills that I probably don't have or didn't have when I was starting. And I also say too, we've been making points about whether you have it or you don't have it, but that, I do agree with that, but these things do get better with time, so I hope that, you know, after 5 and 10 and 15 years, you do get better at having that skill, so don't despair about that. But yeah, I think there absolutely will be jobs. I think there's a lot of flux, and there's a lot of flux in the industry at the moment. It's a difficult time, but there's still a lot of journalism around, so I can't predict what's going to happen. I mean, people in higher positions than me can't predict what's going to happen, but there's a lot of new organisations that are sort of springing up everywhere as well. So I think if you've got the right attitude and you've got the right skills, you can still make it. And you've just got to demonstrate those skills we've been talking about, and have a bit of a thick skin and be resilient as well. I mean, that's something I've had to have through my career, because it's a tough job at times. But
Matt, you're in a different position to Greg, in that you're running largely newspapers, and we always hear about newspapers and the end of newspapers. How's communities tracking it, and do you see a future there for young journos at communities?
Yeah, look, it's been well written that it's a challenging time for the news industry and newspapers in particular, and certainly for people of my era, that's really easy to see. You know, the job, like most jobs, I guess, in today's world, has changed dramatically in the last 5, 10, 15 years. What that does really, though, is sets it up for the generation that is there now, and the scarier for you guys probably, the generation coming behind you, who are going to be well trained to know what we need. You know, news is going to remain. There's no problem with that. News will remain in some way, shape, or form. For us, newspapers, there's massive cost in newspapers, but there's also massive trust in newspapers, and that hasn't gone and isn't going fast. So there's been a real shift. I know certainly over the West Australian, that's happened again in the last couple of months. A real shift in I guess just getting their structure set on a financial base, which is code for some redundancies, I guess. But by getting their structure set to where their finances are now, community's been through that. I think Simon would probably say Fairfax has been through that. News Limited's been through it. That's happened everywhere. But what it has done is it's just really opened the door for a bigger pool of young reporters with the talents that we weren't necessarily trained in, that is just second nature, and more importantly, properly trained into that generation to come through and utilise. We do, like I say, we do need our reporters to be able to now take a photo, go to a press conference, and while you're there, take a photo, shoot some video, tweet about it, and don't forget to listen in and ask some tough questions as well. Because I think that's what a lot of the guys do now. They just take the footage and the videos and aren't actually necessarily listening to the answers that they're getting to ask the follow-up question. So, but look, the opportunity, the crystal ball question is, we'd all love to know, what is the job going to be in 5 years' time? And, if you told me 10 years ago that a kid 15 years younger than me would be the social media editor of any of our organisations, I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. And that's exactly what's happened. Probably the scariest thing for you guys is you won't know in 10 years' time what the kid 10 years younger than you is going to be doing, telling you what to do at work. It's but that's exciting too. You know, if you can stay with it. And sorry, I think the panel said before as well. Passion is the key. Liam Croy is a terrific example. He's such a hard-working. He's a very talented reporter, but so are so many other people I've seen in the community and across WA media. And Liam was just really hard-working. He had that it that we talk about, and you know, for all of that, I didn't realise, but he's still doing some graveyard shifts and working hard. He has to work really hard to get his byline in the paper every couple of days. So don't expect anything's coming to you on a platter. It wasn't when we were coming through, and it's even tougher now for it to come at you on a platter. But have that passion and drive, and you know, and just be aware of what the jobs as they come up could be.
Well, a different situation, I suppose, for television, but we've seen some contracting in the industry.
I mean, Channel 10, prime example of contraction. But we've sort of, you know, we've hit a point now where, you know, we're kind of steady, but really traditional journalism, you know, as we've known it for so many years, is now evolving, and I guess the challenge is to meet what that's going to be in the future, which is hard to do, but I mean, from everything that we see, it's really a lot more online. That's where people go to get their news now. I suppose turning on to the news at 5 or 6 o'clock at night is kind of a tradition for a lot of people, but during the day, you're seeing it on Twitter, Facebook, on websites. So, yeah, I mean, it's about finding where it's going to be heading in the future. I'm getting a bit garbled now. I don't know.
In terms of job prospects, what can you foresee for 10 in particular, and perhaps wider in the television context over the next, let's say, few years, so that your crystal ball's not set for too far?
Look, like I said, we don't have a lot of turnover at Channel 10. It's a good job and people love it.
And is that contributing to that sort of thing, guys, contributing to what I was talking about in a bottleneck? Because those people who've got jobs are hanging on for dear life, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There is definitely, there's a group that are fortunate enough ahead of you guys that have got their jobs now, and they don't really want to get rid of them. You know, again, if I take it back 10 years, there was great opportunities to come through community and do like Liam Croy, jump into an opportunity at the West, and if that's what you want to do, make something of it. There's fewer jobs in the industry, so there's, I guess, fewer turnover within the industry to create the junior positions to come up too.
And Whitey, again, a different story. Did you ever think that you'd be monitoring Facebook pages like Perth Have a Wins looking for stories?
They give away too many of their secrets. No, I wouldn't have had any idea what it was. In fact, when I first personally started following that page, I couldn't even look at it. I looked at some of it and I was like, I really like this. And then you work out to pick through the posts, and maybe 1 out of 15 is of some value or interest to you. For us, in terms of our team, I would hope it's not going to contract anymore. This time, for the first time, I think since we were established in 2008, we were part of Fairfax's company-wide restructure, which involved redundancies, and we had one and a fifth people go. So you know, that's something you try and then manage a newsroom, and obviously the thing is with redundancies, you can't then just invent casual positions that are going to fill them. So you manage with less people. I'd hope that's as small as we were going to go. The one thing I'd say is that the public's appetite for stories is always going to be there, and the public is going to require people to write and produce those stories. It's just and I think the panel said before about evolving. It's just evolving. The latest staff member I just hired, part of his position is to spend, and it's a trial, is to spend a couple of hours each day writing stories entirely on social media. And I think that's a way that the industry will go. There will eventually be someone, you know, potentially a team of people, 5 or 6 people who are just social media reporters. And if you look at, I mean, we're lucky enough in some ways that we're governed entirely by our analytics. Who's reading what, how many little people there is, where they're going to, how they're getting there. And that's that's a double-edged sword in some ways, because there's a lot of really important stories that don't generate huge readership, so you've got to find ways to still do those important stories. There's a lot of silly stories that, you know, silly by the, I mean, I find entertaining, but silly stories by the traditional definition. You'd never get into a newspaper back when I was a cadet, which generate large readership. So it's about managing them, but if you think that, you know, a lot of the stories that are generated by social media are then generating a lot of traffic, you have to think that there's going to be more resources put into that in the future.
And is there a career path at WA Today for people like Emmy Young, for Hannah? Is there somewhere for them to go, or
Yeah.
they be at the bottom for a while?
Absolutely. I mean, I personally haven't stayed in one job for more than 3 or 4 years in my life, so that, and I think journalism is generally, definitely in print, and my experience in online is that it's a fairly transient job. Like, people will do a job for a while and then seek something else which they think is a career opportunity. We've been lucky enough within Fairfax, we've provided the locum editor to the Sydney Morning Herald, the entertainment and lifestyle editor of the Sydney Morning Herald. Asia Stiles, who was our crime reporter, went to Melbourne and became an entertainment reporter there, and is now back here producing entertainment from Perth nationally. So there's a cycle there. It's going to be up to, you know, I think all of our team at the moment is WA born and bred, including myself. So in terms of within the company, it's going to be whether they want to move, whether they want to go to the Sydney Morning Herald or the Age, or whether there's national roles that can be sorted out for them here. One of the great things about being digital is you don't actually have to be somewhere anymore to be a part of a newsroom. So someone could